Welcome back to your Pig Trail Show with another edition of the Hog Hoops Report with Kevin McPherson. Kevin, we've got a bunch to talk about today. Pro Hogs. We're not going to start there, but Summer League almost over. What we're going to start with is Bayfall. I've been seeing you tweet about him all week long, officially at practice.
He's back. Well, I say he's back. He made his arrival to Fayetteville and to campus actually in late June. And it's just been stuff that we haven't talked really much about. There was some stuff out on social media. He was seen arriving at X&A, but finally able to come out and now talk about it. And so, yeah, he arrived in late June. Arkansas kind of moved into that 4th of July holiday, had a few days off, kind of when he was getting acclimated, getting on campus. And then when practice resumed, he's been practicing. So, that tell you that all players go through a physical, they go through their physicals, have to get cleared through that. So if he's practicing, that tells us he was cleared through his physical exam. And so Bayfall is now with the team. When you look at all the signees Arkansas had, he was one of two from the high school ranks back in November. He and Layden Blocker, so they had two freshmen, true freshmen to be signees out of the high school ranks. And then in April, they had 5 guys in the 2-week span, early to mid-April, who came out of the transfer portal. So it started with a 7-player class. Most of that group arrived on campus by the end of Memorial Day weekend. And then you had Bayfall getting in, about a month later, almost late June. But then you've also had Arkansas get a recent commitment from Chandler Lawson, the 6'8" combo forward. Unless he's arriving today or shortly, he's not on campus yet, but he's expected to be. And then I've been talking about it for a while. This is all I'm going to say. I can't have a follow-up on this. Is that there is an unnamed commit. He's more than a commit, but another guy that fits into that 3-4 combo forward spot. We've seen Arkansas and Eric Melsman have a lot of success with those tweener-sized guys playing that position because there's a lot of defensive versatility on the perimeter and even helping defend some in the paint around the basket. And so Arkansas, when you start talking about this roster, well, I think when it all shakes out, you're talking about the 2 high school guys they brought in. I just talked about both of those, Fall and Blocker. But at the end of the day, I think they're going to end up with as many as 7 guys out of the portal. I mentioned the 5. They were backcourt players. I didn't mention them by the name, Lawson, and then the unnamed commit. So this is another heavy recruiting class for Arkansas. But the good news is I think this time around versus last year when Arkansas basically had 2 players, only 2 scholarship players returning, this time around it's 5. And I think when you look at those 5, it's not just the higher number and more continuity within your program and experience. But look at the talent of guys like Trevor Brazile and Devo Davis. I say it all the time. Those are 5-star retention wins in recruiting and veterans. Mekhi Mitchell, a regular starter throughout the regular season. I think he was only one game he didn't start last year. Mekhi Mitchell, and then Jalen Graham, who gave Arkansas good minutes and found his way into the rotation at times. These guys are in the fold. Joseph Pinion, by percentage, Arkansas's best 3-point shooter last year and helped the Hogs win a couple of SEC games. So when we kind of spin the wheel on this one a little bit, this is a veteran team. I think it's going to be better shooting the 3 ball. Some of these are talking points we continue to go over, but I think it's important when you get a Bayfall on campus because Arkansas at practice right now, some of those names I mentioned, Mekhi Mitchell and Trevor Brazile, they're targeting a fall return for full go in practice. And so Arkansas has been a little thin on that front line in those limited practices. Jalen Graham, really the only scholarship big at 6'10", Lawson Blake, the 6'10" walk-on. Now you've got Fall out there with his length, athleticism, quickness for a guy 6'10 plus. Yeah. And his motor end to end, it's a little spotty at times, but when he's engaged and locked in, he's one of the quick, fastest bigs I've seen up and down the court. A guy that's going to be a lob threat off a lob pass to finish with a dunk, can, do some things around the basket that some of Arkansas's bigs that are currently in play, even a Trevor Brazile, who's more of a stretch player, Bayfall brings things to practice immediately that gives Arkansas a different look, and it's going to help make everybody better.
Kevin, if March teaches anybody anything, it's that experience wins out in the end, so I'm happy to hear that everything's going good on the practice front. All right, we got to talk some recruiting. What's going on with those updates?
Well, Arkansas put out several offers this past week, a couple of class of 2024, which is very interesting. The early signing period in November is for this upcoming senior class 2024. And Arkansas typically has visitors, even starting in June for the upcoming recruiting class. Been a little bit slower this year on that front when you're talking about the upcoming seniors. but a couple of offers that just went out. Raquise Passmore, 6'5" wing, very athletic guy, had an outstanding Nike Peach Jam event just a few days ago. Arkansas extended him a scholarship offer in the middle of the week. Then you
Awesome.
had another class of 2024, a big man. And when we talk about Robert Miller, now he's a 6'10", from Pasadena, Texas, 6'10" power forward, center combo, but also class of 2024. So keep an eye on a couple of guys. They're getting offers in on kind of late here. We'll see where Arkansas, how they manage some of these offers in terms of trying to get them on campus for visits, because we're really winding down with the spring and summer grassroots play. It really winds down at the end of July. There'll be a few offshoot events in August, but you'll start to see maybe players take some visits, and some of that stuff will move into the next academic calendar when football season starts. Arkansas always has entertains players on an unofficial visit, sometimes official, on some of those weekends. But again, November early signing periods, to be very interested to see what Arkansas strategy is with some of this. But Arkansas coaches, this weekend was the second live July eval period, and coaches were out and about. You had Anthony Ruda in Las Vegas checking out the 17U Arkansas Hawks. K-Honor Boateng, the national top 10 5-star, really had, continues to put up numbers. A weekend ago, it was 21.5 points, shooting 47% from three in volume. This weekend, he's had a couple of double-doubles already, averaging nearly 18 points a game, real close to 10 rebounds per game on his average, and the Hawks continue to win, and he's the biggest part of that. And then you have Terrion Burgess, who I talk about a lot, class of 2025, national top 30 player, 4-star out of Benton, 6'9" combo forward, continues to be productive playing alongside Boateng. And then you've got another prospect who's very interesting. Arkansas is deep in the class of 2026. We know there's offers out to Jacob Lanier out of Maumelle, a big lead guard, 6'5", 6'6", playing up with 17U, putting up nice numbers too, over 15 points a game, over 7 rebounds and 7 assists. Very versatile guy. Arkansas has had an offer out to him. J.J. Andrews, 6'5" wing, pushing 6'6" at a Little Rock Christian. Had a big Nike Peach Jam week. I talked about it last week. Also has that Arkansas offer from that class. But I think it's very interesting. There's another player that's emerged on the 15 and under Hawks, played up with the 17s this weekend. R.J. Young, a week ago, 3 30-point games playing at the Adidas 3SSB Summer Championships with the 15 and under team. They brought him up 2 levels to 17. Just had a 10-point game on 10 points on 5 of 7 field goal shooting today. 6'4" guard out of Bryant, Arkansas, who's already picked up a high major offer in the SEC. It's not Arkansas, it was Ole Miss, the first one, but you can bet Arkansas coaches were paying attention to him. Yeah. I mentioned Ruda in Vegas. And then today, Eric Musselman in Omaha, Nebraska, check it out, national top 10, 6'9", Asa Newell, a combo forward that's, a top 10 5-star, a guy that played on Team USA that has been a part of that program at various age levels. But at one of the top players in the country, if you're ranked top 10, obviously class of 2024. I mentioned how recruiting's been kind of a little bit slow in terms of visits. We'll see if Arkansas is able to get Newell on campus for a visit. Multiple times that Musselman's been out to see him, but his team in a championship game event today in Omaha, Nebraska, took on a team from Arkansas, AAO Flight, that has one of the best players, arguably the best player in the state, and class of 2024, Lane Taylor. We don't talk about him enough. A 5'10" point guard that can do everything. Will, this guy can score, he can facilitate, he can defend, he plays winning basketball, and he's a guy that throughout the spring and summer has gotten more and more Division I attention, started picking up D1 offers. Now you've got high major schools flocking to see him. Eric Musselman saw that matchup today. Lane Taylor is the name to keep an eye on. We'll see where that goes and if Arkansas has any interest there. But it might be worth looking at. So, when you talk about recruiting, Will, it's not just about portal. I always say it. Retention's important. All these things are important. But that high school level talent, all you have to do is look at the Pro Hogs who we're just about to talk about. Look at the Pro Hogs. All of these guys, most all of them have come from the high school ranks and high school recruiting.
Yeah, Summer League, just wrapping up here. You teased it there. What has stood out to you? There has been so much that's happened. Who's impressed you, and who do you wish you had seen a little more from?
That's a great question. I'm going to tell you, several guys impressed me. It's going to start with your Boston Celtics rookie taking number 38, early second round, Jordan Walsh. 5 games. He played 5 games in Las Vegas. He didn't play in one of those earlier events. His team didn't. But here's a guy that to me has been the MVP among 7 Pro Hogs in Summer League. In 5 games, I've been grading these guys after every game. He's the only player to get multiple A grades. He's gotten
Woof,
3 out of 5. Look, he always projected as a 3-and-D wing, and I think people could buy the defense part. But what about the 3 part, the 3-point shooting? That's where he struggled at Arkansas.
Yeah.
And what we've seen so far is a guy that's been comfortable and relaxed. He's bought a summer league team. Most of these guys aren't going to play in the NBA or get maybe have a cup of coffee there at best. A lot of them will be G League players. But this is the focal point of Boston's summer league team. It was their only drafted player, and they put pieces around him that play to the strengths of his game. A lot of great ball movement. When you're a 3-and-D wing setting up on that wing, that ball needs to be hot and it needs to find you. And it found Jordan, and he did his part. Over 2 makes per game from 3 at nearly 41%. Will that crushes the numbers he had at Arkansas? But it also led all the Pro Hogs. He led the Pro Hogs in scoring in summer league, 16 points a game, averaged 4 rebounds. Did a little bit of, had a few assists, some steals. In his most recent game against the Magic on Saturday, he was using that 7'3" wingspan, his instincts, and what Musselman likes to call violent defender. Well, some of those traits were showing up because he was a menace. I mean, he was getting into players, primary ball handlers, getting deflections, disrupting offensive flow. He got a steal in the backcourt and went in and dunked it yesterday. But Jordan Walsh, I mean, and then when you put it all together, a two-way player, not only has he had, when you talk about the offense and the 3-point shooting and the 16 a game, but I think when you talk two-way player offense defense, he's been the most steady guy and consistent guy through summer league play. So it's really, our report starts with him. Yeah. I'm not going to lie. I have belief in Jordan Walsh. I knew that he would eventually be a guy that fits at the NBA level as a 3-and-D. I didn't think I would see, even though it's summer league, we have to remind ourselves it's summer league. It's not NBA basketball, but it's in between, and it's a step up from the college game. And I'll tell you, this guy is showing more than I thought he would this early. I thought it would eventually show itself. It's showing it pretty quickly, even on that stage. Again, this doesn't mean with a team like Boston, who's playing for titles now, that he jumps into the rotation, but he's going to have a chance. Yeah. And he's going to be on that 15-man roster from where I sit. I believe that.
Oh, I couldn't believe it, especially after that 18-point first game performance. The sky is the limit for this kid.
25 points and 8 rebounds in his third game.
Mm-hmm.
His second and fourth games, he'd have a big game, then kind of come back down to earth. And he finished up, only 15 minutes, but those 12 points, made his last 4 shots, had a big 10-point second quarter, kind of blew that game open. And he's had positive plus box scores in several games. And so, but the eye test, I look at stats, box score plus minus can be deceiving. If you watch the game, I only publish box score plus minus when my eye test tells me what that revealed was reflective of the impact of the player. Normally I won't include it unless it does. And when I've seen Jordan, it certainly has. And so he's been great. I think the most outstanding performance, single game performance, and who I'm going to call my offensive player of summer league goes to Nick Smith Jr. He had a 33-point night earlier this week. Very efficient, 13 of 20 from the field, 4 or 5 from 3. Had a 16-point stretch in the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter. That's
pretty good.
That's hard to do even in the summer league. I don't care what level it is. You have to be special to do that. And, he's been up and down a little bit with his efficiency. I thought he was outstanding throughout, through 6 summer league games, going to the California Classic, a couple of those. He led the Charlotte Hornets in scoring in that event, 2-game event. And you saw he averaged 4 rebounds per game. That's more than double what he averaged in his time at Arkansas. 3.2 assists playing that lead guard spot on a team where the ball doesn't move and there are no shooters. He's probably, if he had the kind of folks around him that Jordan Walsh did, we're talking about 4 to 5 assists per game for Nick Smith Jr. because he got off the ball and guys just couldn't knock down shots. One of the most inept teams I've ever seen around him, but he made the most of it. 15 points per game out in Las Vegas in those 4 games. I mentioned the 4 rebounds, 3+ assists, but he ends up shooting in Vegas 36, nearly 37% from 3. So you'll take that. That's good. That's actually outstanding. 35 plus for a guy that creates off the bounce like he does for 3. He started to figure things out after out in California, shooting so well inside the arc, not as well from 3. So I thought Nick Smith Jr. checked a lot of boxes. The 33-point performance, though, by far the best for a Razorback. I told you about the shooting efficiency in that game, and he took it over and gave his team a chance to win late. But he also had 4 rebounds, 3 assists, and did some other things. I think with Nick Smith Jr., it's going to end up being defense on that end of the floor. I thought that's where he struggled consistently, aside from a handful of solid plays each game. When you're playing 25 to 30 minutes, a handful of plays that are solid, that's not enough, because even when your offense is going, you got to defend on the other end. I think there's positives there. He's got that plus length, instincts are there. It's just really buying in fully and learning that part of the game, especially at the pro level. Then Anthony Black will only played 3 games, got out of the gates quick with that 17 point, 5 rebound, 5 assists, 3 steal game. But in his 2 of his 3 games, he struggled with turnovers, 7 in the first game, 5 in his last game. The middle game, he didn't have any, but he shot very poorly in the last 2 games and struggled a lot offensively. Defensively, he made some wow plays and did some things. But when you watch Anthony Black on the court, I'm going to throw this summer league out. Not all of it. Some of it was really, really good. But as far as the stuff like turnovers and some of the other little things, I think some of the shooting stuff he's going to improve on. It's going to take time. We know shooting and perimeter shooting is going to be a struggle for him. But I didn't see anything. You asked me as part of this, who did you expect more from? I didn't expect more from Anthony Black. I thought he was outstanding. And you have to take it with a grain of salt. It was only 3 games. I think if you stretch him out to 5 or 6 games, if that was the decision the Magic made, he's going to have 2 or 3 more brilliant performances, more reflective of that first game. So no worries with Anthony Black. I think he's a guy that's obviously competing for a starting spot as a number 6 overall pick in that lottery. So there wasn't a great body of work, but he flashed everything. And look, he led 8.7 rebounds per game in his 3 games. That's tops among Pro Hogs. 4 assists per game, tops among Pro Hogs. 2 steals per game, number 1 among Pro Hogs. Now, he did have 4 turnovers per game. That also led the way. Shooting percentages inside the arc, they're okay. Outside the arc, not so good. Free throw line, not great, in the 50s. But again, these are things he'll get better at. Some of the negatives there, I think the turnovers as he matures is going to improve on that. But Anthony Black, when he leads so many categories, that's not where you look at Summer League and go, oh, well, it's just Summer League. Really, at every level, this guy stuffs the stat sheet and leads his team in 3 or 4 of those such important statistical categories. We're talking rebounds, assists, steals, hustle plays. I mean, these are all the things that he's consistently led teams, whether it was at Arkansas, being at or near the top of those statistical categories, near or at the top of the SEC. For Team USA, this time last year, getting it done in June and leading in every category other than scoring. This is who he is. So I saw enough in 3 games to know Anthony Black's going to be a big impact player at the next level. So those first 3 names I mentioned are guys that are really off the charts in terms of what I would have expected in certain parts of it, off the charts. I mean, I didn't see Nick Smith Jr. going off for 33. We talked about Jordan. I didn't necessarily see that efficiency. With Anthony Black, I didn't know that he would be able to control so many aspects of the game, because remember, these guys are all 19 years old. They're one and dones. And even though this is Summer League, a lot of these guys are veteran guys. They're older guys. Some have NBA experience. And so they're checking a lot. They're off the charts a little bit relative to their age. But some of their projections suggest this is the kind of production when they get a little more experience at the high level, NBA level, we're going to see more and more of. Some of it's going to flash as rookies. The one guy I wanted to see more out of, he's playing right now as we talk. So we'll take a look at this game. But Ricky Council's in his 8th Summer League game now. Yeah. Played 3 in the Salt Lake City event. This is his 5th and final game in Las Vegas. And he's averaging nearly 11 points per game. He's a guy that gets to the free throw line, shooting over 80%.
I wanted to ask you, Kevin, do you think he's done enough?
Well, I think he's on a 2-way deal, and I think he's done enough to solidify that. But here's what I wanted to see more of. I mean, he's 1 of 16 from 3. We know that's not his game, but you got to be a little bit more competent than that. That's less than 10% to really show that you belong. And this is, because if you don't do that, if you're not that guy on the offensive end, he's a slasher. His mid-range has been really, really spotty. It's been mostly get to the basket, which is how it was at Arkansas. Get to the free throw line. Those are great. It's going to be harder and harder to do when you get to that NBA game. Easier to do in Summer League, some of that stuff, than you're going to get in the NBA game. But if you're not that guy from 3, you've got to be reliable, night in and night out, defensively and on the glass. And there were times we were talking about how he was doing his job on that end of the floor.
Mhm.
But there's been enough games here where, there's been a big lead surrendered in summer league. That happens. But Ricky's been on the floor for a lot of that. And sometimes there are stretches of games where I don't want to use the word disappear, but he's not having as much of an impact in some of those other areas. I had an NBA scout reach out to me this week who's not been able to follow the summer league and asking me about this stuff with Ricky. And I was bragging on him. But at the same time, there are areas where he needs to be more consistent defensively, rebounding, impacting winning plays, whether it's an assist, because teams are now leaving him wide open in the corner in different spots, and he's having to drive on no defenders and then drive into defenders because he doesn't want to take that shot because he really can't knock it down. So I think if I wanted to see a little bit more, it's just a little bit more growth on the offensive end and consistency defensively and rebounding the ball. But if I'm giving Rick, when I look at Ricky and the overall body of work so far in summer league, I still think he's helped himself simply because he's more consistent than he was at Arkansas in some of the very things I talked about. There's been more consistency, but he's got to be better than more. It's got to be all the way on some of those blue collar things because I think that's what's going to help him more than anything.
Yeah, absolutely, Kevin. You know that Ricky can throw it down like the best of them. It's been so much fun watching all these guys, and Kev, it's always so much fun having you on, but that's all the time we got. We're going to go to break. More Pig Shell Show after this.